Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And today we have a lot of things to talk about when it comes to PlayStation. Some very exciting, and then some a little bit more controversial. Now, I'm always really happy to report on the exciting stuff, and well, we did get a big event announced today. This has been rumored for quite a while, but it's now official that PlayStation does have a big event planned for the month of September, and we will talk about all of that and what we should expect at this event. Now, on the other side of things, and this is where things get a little bit more disappointing, but yes, unfortunately, there is some controversy surrounding an upcoming PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 pre-order. So we will go over all of that as well, plus plenty more. As usual, I do cover the entire game industry, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it, starting off with CyberPunk 2077 and then The Witcher 3. Now, obviously, both of these games have already released on last-generation consoles, being the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. You know, The Witcher 3, that's one of the most beloved games from last generation, actually. And then, well, CyberPunk, it came from the same developer, not quite as beloved because there's just been so much controversy that surrounded this game since it initially released on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It launched with a ton of bugs, as most of you all probably are very well aware of by this point. I mean, it was so bad that PlayStation actually took it off of the PlayStation Store. I don't think I've ever seen that happen with a big AAA release, but I mean, so many people were trying to refund this game because it was just so broken at launch that, yeah, PlayStation had to take it off of the PlayStation Store. So yeah, CyberPunk has had some issues, but what we do know is that CD Projekt Red is planning to release CyberPunk 2077 as well as The Witcher 3 for next generation consoles. With that in mind though, even though CD Projekt Red does plan on releasing these games in 2021, those release dates are a little bit more fluid than what I think some of us may have originally realized. In fact, if you are anticipating these games, I wouldn't hold your breath for a 2021 release at all, because we now actually got an update, and yeah, let's just go and check out what CD Projekt Red had to say about these games. The target is to release the next-gen version of CyberPunk 2077 late this year. At the same time, keeping in mind the lessons we have learned during the past year and taking into account that this project still remains in development, we can't say with full certainty that the production schedule will not change. With The Witcher 3, the situation is slightly different in the way that this is being tackled by the external team mainly, which is Saber Interactive, the company that we have worked with before on Switch and also with updates in the past. As with CyberPunk 2077, our goal is to release that game still in late 2021. However, similarly, the development process is ongoing, and we cannot be absolutely dead certain that the release schedule will not change. So there it is, and as you can see here, it doesn't sound like they're too confident on that 2021 release. But honestly, I kind of like what I'm hearing, and the reason I say that is because they're learning. I mean, last year they launched this game when it clearly should not have released in the first place, and now they're actually taking that into account here, and they're going to make sure this game is completely ready to go before they release it. So I like that they're actually considering that this time around, but it does look like both of these games don't have an exact release date set in stone as of this moment. Now, we also have a little bit of Xbox news to talk about today because it does look like they will be appearing at the Tokyo Game Show this year once again. And this is something that Xbox has really been trying to improve on here in recent years. Phil Spencer has made a concerted effort at improving Japanese support. And I think we're definitely seeing a big improvement here, especially on the Xbox Game Pass side of things. If you really start to look at it, there has been a lot of Japanese games released in the Xbox Game Pass, especially day one, whether that be with Octopath Traveler, you have Dragon Quest, you have the Yakuza franchise, you have Final Fantasy, and the list just kind of goes on and on. They do have a lot of Japanese games available over in Xbox Game Pass, so it does seem like they are getting the support that they've been trying to get for the last couple of years. And it's actually paying off in Japan as well. The Xbox Series is doing a much better job over there than the Xbox One did last generation. So it definitely seems like whatever Xbox is doing, it's paying off. And with that in mind, they will have an Xbox showcase later this month on September 30th at the Tokyo Game Show. And fans were really excited about this one yesterday because the wording for this kind of suggested that we was going to get some kind of an exclusive announcement here. I think the wording was kind of off though, because they did remove the exclusive word in that announcement, and then Xbox's Aaron Greenberg actually took to Twitter to kind of try to temper expectations. And actually, let's just go and check out what he had to say. Well, since you asked, Tokyo Game Show is a show for our players in Japan and across Asia. Expect regionally relevant updates, but no major reveals or announcements, as our game teams are focused on continuing to ship big releases across October, November, and December. So there you have it. Don't go into this event expecting some massive announcement. We might get some pretty cool reveals. We might see some Japanese games here and this, that, and the other. But don't go in expecting anything massive to be announced here. Now, it still might be worth tuning into. And as always, if you do miss the event and if anything does interesting happen there, I will let you know all about it. Again, though, Tokyo Game Show will be taking place from September 30th to October 3rd. Now, speaking of events, and this is one that you can definitely get hyped up for, and that is for the big PlayStation 5 State of Play that is now set for September 9th. This event will take place next Thursday on September 9th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and it does sound like they have some pretty big plans for this event. It's not a short little event or anything like that, but instead, this event will be around 40 minutes long, and they're saying it includes updates from PlayStation Studios and some of the industry's most imaginative developers for games releasing this holiday and beyond. So even though this event might be more focused on holiday releases, they do say beyond, so that means that almost anything could really pop up here. But with that in mind, PlayStation does have quite a bit of games releasing in the next couple of months, whether that be with first party or third party. I mean, even if you really look at just September alone, you have Deathloop, you have Kena Bridge of Spirits, which we haven't really seen much on that game. I think that that would be a prime candidate to get a big gameplay reveal. And then you also have Death Stranding Director's Cut. Now, I don't know if they'll show too much on Deathloop or Death Stranding, just considering they've already shown a lot on those two games. But yeah, I would definitely expect a Kena Bridge of Spirits gameplay reveal here. I'm really hoping that game turns out to be as good as it looks, because visually, it looks phenomenal. Now, another game that I would expect to be here would be Horizon Forbidden West. Last time we heard about this game was when it got delayed to February 18th of 2022, and it would be nice to see some more gameplay for Horizon Forbidden West. It's just kind of tied fans over until it does release early next year. Now, I will say that I'm already sold on that game. It does look really good, but it's always nice to get little updates here and there. Beyond that, though, I mean, there's a couple other games that PlayStation's already announced that maybe we could get some updates for. They have already announced Final Fantasy XVI, Gran Turismo, and then God of War Ragnarok. Now, God of War Ragnarok is the one that I think fans are going to be most excited for, because really, I mean, you take a look at God of War from last generation, that game was a single-player masterpiece. It was a really good game, and I know for me, I'm very interested to see how they plan on following up that game. We'll see how all that works out, but I know fans are very excited for that one, and maybe, just maybe, we get an update for that here. Gran Turismo is another one that I think we could actually hear about. This is another game that did get delayed, but we could get an update for that here. Now, as for Final Fantasy XVI, I don't think we will get an update for that game, because last time we heard about this, the developers, they basically said that they're going to show it whenever they can just absolutely wow people, and that could be a little bit closer to its release. So I think that they're going to hold off before giving it a big official reveal. It would be really nice to see it at this event, but I'm not going to go in expecting that or anything. But regardless, this does sound like it's going to be a big event worth tuning into, and I don't know about you all, but I'm definitely excited for that PlayStation State of Play. Again, that will be taking place on September 9th. Unfortunately, though, we do have some controversy to talk about today, and this one actually surrounds Horizon Forbidden West, and not necessarily the game itself. The game, as I said before, looks absolutely excellent. I'm very excited for it myself, but the controversy actually surrounds the pricing and the upgrade path from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, or their lack of. So what's happening here is that today PlayStation did open up the pre-orders for Horizon Forbidden West, and, well, they offer 5 different options to pre-order this game. And on paper, that sounds really good, but well, I actually don't think it's quite enough, which I'll get into here in just a moment, but let's just go and go over the options that you do have. So you have the standard PlayStation 4 physical version, then you have the standard PlayStation 5 physical version, then you have the digital deluxe edition, which of course is the digital version with a lot of digital goodies. Then there's the special edition, which nets you a steelbook cover. There's also a collector's edition, which gets you a nice looking statue, and then finally the Regala edition, which offers you a statue and then even more. So like I said before, there's quite a bit of different options here on paper at the very least. But the first problem that you kind of run into is that a couple of these versions are only the digital copy of the game. There's a lot of people that just prefer physical media, but unfortunately, some of these just does not offer a physical disc. In fact, it's the most expensive options that don't have a physical disc. Neither the Collector's Edition nor the Regala Edition offers a physical disc, but instead opts out for a digital code. Now, the reason that they do this is because, yes, there is that digital-only PlayStation 5 out there, and for fans that bought that PlayStation 5, they're going to want a digital version of this game instead, and that's why they do this. But if they're going to do it this way, I would just prefer they have two more options. Have a digital and physical version of the Collector's Edition, and then also have a digital and physical version for the Regala Edition as well. I think that that would be a lot more fair, because I mean, the reason people bought the physical PlayStation 5 is so they can get physical media, or at least for some people. So I don't really like what they're doing here with the Regala and Collector's Edition. I have the Collector's Edition pre-ordered myself, but I might have to cancel that and then opt out either for that special edition or the standard PlayStation 5. And that's kind of the next problem, and the thing that's garnering a lot more attention is that there is a standard PlayStation 4 edition and then the standard PlayStation 5 edition. Now, as we've kind of seen throughout this generation, the PlayStation 4 edition is set at $60, while the PlayStation 5 edition is set at $70. And if you do buy the PlayStation 4 version, well, it looks like you don't even have the option to upgrade to the PlayStation 5. And that's very problematic for several different reasons. One being that there's a price difference at all, because, quite frankly, there's not a major difference between the PlayStation 4 version and the PlayStation 5 version. The PlayStation 5 version will have better graphics, but I don't know if that really merits a $10 increase. I mean, if you start to think about it, they're basically telling you to pay $10 extra for graphic settings. So under that line of thinking, I guess PC developers could charge $10 for graphic settings. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Now, I get it. The PlayStation 5 version is going to be the prettier version. It's going to have DualSense settings and this, that, and the other. But at the same time, like I said before, PC doesn't require more money for extra settings, and I'm not convinced that the PlayStation 5 version should be $10 higher either. Preferably, both games to be set at $60. So that's kind of the first problem that people are having. But then also, as of this moment, there's not actually an upgrade path from the PlayStation 4 edition to the PlayStation 5. The only way to have both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 edition is to buy one of the more premium versions of the game, such as the Digital Deluxe Edition. So if you decide to buy the standard PlayStation 4 version, you will not be able to upgrade later to that PlayStation 5 version. But that's kind of the thing. A lot of people are still stuck playing on the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, because the PlayStation 5 is sold out everywhere. And if you do buy that PlayStation 4 edition, well, from the looks of it, you're just kind of stuck with that version. I just don't like it, especially considering a lot of publishers are giving free upgrades. We've seen that with several third-party games this generation. Xbox is doing it for that matter, and I think PlayStation needs to do the same thing. I guess it is what it is. I do think fans should ask for better, and that's something that I think that fans should just in general kind of keep in mind. There's certain fans out there that will kind of defend actions like this. I mean, I was reading through some comments about this earlier today, and somebody said that, well, PlayStation can do it because they're the market leaders. And okay, well, I guess technically, yeah, they can do that, but just because you can do something doesn't make it right. And this is a situation I just don't think it's right. If you have a better argument for me than that, then sure, go ahead, leave it in my comments below. But as of this moment, I don't think that it's necessarily the right decision. The truth is while we love these products that these companies make, these companies are not our friends. Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, they're not our friends. They're going to do what's best for their company. And sometimes for us consumers, we have to ask for better. Now, before I go, though, we do have one last topic to go over here, and that would be for Bravely Default. Bravely Default 2, of course, released earlier this year for the Nintendo Switch, and just today it launched over on Steam. I would highly recommend that game, especially for fans of old school Final Fantasy games. It plays very similar to games like Final Fantasy IV, so if you like those, you might want to go check out Bravely Default 2. But this game has had some success over on the Nintendo Switch since it launched. Bravely Default 2 is closing in on 1 million units sold, which is actually pretty good for a game like this, especially an exclusive title. Up until just today, Bravely Default 2 was only available on the Nintendo Switch, with it just now releasing on Steam. So we're going to see this game continue to sell from this point forward. And well, it does sound like Square Enix is pretty happy with the results for Bravely Default 2, because let's just go check out what the series producer had to say in an interview with Famitsu. Bravely Default 2 was well received by fans, and as a result, we're hoping to continue the series as we feel we can pull it off once again. With that said, we're still in the planning phase, and I suspect development will take another 3 to 4 years, so we'd appreciate if fans could bear with us. So with that comment right there, it does suggest that they're already planning for a Bravely Default 3, and this is absolutely fantastic news. I personally really like this game, and I think for a lot of fans who are maybe a little bit more frustrated with the direction that the Final Fantasy franchise has taken, I know some of you do prefer that turn-based combat as opposed to the more action-driven combat that we've seen in recent years with Final Fantasy, and Bravely Default is a great alternative to the Final Fantasy franchise. In fact, Bravely Default was originally developed as a Final Fantasy game, and then they ultimately decided to turn it into a new IP. So this franchise has a lot in common with the classic Final Fantasy games, and the fact that it's been selling well, and it sounds like that they do have plans for a third game. Yeah, I think fans of this series, and really JRPGs as a whole, that's fantastic news. It's going to be a long wait, but I am really glad to hear Square Enix has more plans for this franchise, because I think that it can comfortably sit alongside Final Fantasy going forward. On to the poll of the day, though. With so many Nintendo rumors going around right now, I wanted to ask you all, what rumored Nintendo Switch game do you most want to be real? And I mean, you have a lot of choices to choose from here. There's rumors that Xenoblade 3 is late in development. You have a Donkey Kong game being developed by the Mario Odyssey team. Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD has been widely rumored for a little while now. And then there's also the Metroid Prime Trilogy HD re-release. So there was a lot of choices here in terms of rumored Nintendo games. The majority of you, though, being 31% voted for Donkey Kong, developed by the Mario Odyssey team. But if you look at the results here, and this is something that I always like to see, but the results are actually pretty close. And what that tells me is that you all are excited for all of these games. But yeah, Donkey Kong definitely took that #1 spot. And I do understand that, because it's been a little while since we've gotten a Donkey Kong game. And the Mario Odyssey team, I mean, they're just so talented. The past couple of Donkey Kong games, of course, have been developed by Retro, which have done a phenomenal job, but it'll be interesting to see a fresh take on the Donkey Kong franchise with the Mario Odyssey team. We could end up seeing something entirely different, and I'm excited to see what they do with that. I know we've been hearing that this is very possibly another 2D Donkey Kong game, which is a little bit of a disappointment, because with this being the Mario Odyssey team, I feel like it would be the perfect chance to go back to that 3D format once again, but either way, I'm excited to see what they do. With that in mind, though, I actually hope that all of these games are real, especially the Metroid Prime Trilogy. I think with the explosion of interest to the Metroid franchise, it would be the perfect time to release the Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. Regardless, if any of these games do turn out to be true, that's definitely a good thing. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.